Hello, everybody. This is Mike, and welcome to the Soul Unleashed podcast again. My guest today that I'm very excited to have is Dr. Selvi Rengasami, and I got that right, right?
Yes, you did.
Okay, awesome. Dr. Selvi is a healer and also a medical doctor. And Dr. Selvi, what I'm going to ask you to do just initially, my audience is comprised of a lot of people who are skeptics, basically, about the whole spiritual thing. So you are involved now in things that I would have thought were a little bit out there not long ago in terms of healing.
Yeah,
But I think it's important that the audience listening understands, what your story is a little bit and why you got to where you are. So could you cover that, please?
absolutely. I mean, and to be honest, I thought it was out there. When I was in medical school and the whole medical world, I was like, those people are crazy. And then all of a sudden, one fine day, I became one of them. So I get it. What took me there was my personal healing journey. So I went through a journey with autoimmune disease with something called Crohn's disease, it's an inflammatory disease of the digestive tract. And at the time, I was in college when I was first diagnosed, and I was struggling, with being really sick, but not just being really sick, but not able to get better, eventually needing surgeries. And I was fully trusting in Western medicine and the medications they were offering me and things like that, and not tuning into the energetic side of the picture at all. And not only did I not get better, but I wound up needing surgery eventually. I mean, and my first surgery was actually an emergency surgery my last semester of college. I wound up needing a temporary ostomy, which is basically a bag on the side of your abdomen where the what should go into the toilet comes out into the bag. And it led into a cycle of needing more and more surgeries, being on these medications, and not being able to get to any place where I felt better at all. I was very low on energy. I was literally struggling, and my doctors were like, well, you're an interesting patient, which you do never ever want to hear as a patient, because that basically means we don't know what the heck to do with you. So anyway, fast forward a few years, I go through a few more surgeries. I'm laying on the operating table, I'm looking at the lights, and it hits me. I'm like, this is going to continue to be my life unless I change something. And that was where I basically just made a plea with myself, with God, with whatever you want to call a force greater than myself. And I said, I'll do anything, whatever it takes to get out of this. That was when I started to finally take some responsibility. I started to step into the world of holistic medicine, right? So Eastern medicine, acupuncture, Ayurveda, things like that, which helped me to start to understand my physical body as a whole, started to understand that there was a role to emotions in the body, but I also started to discover that in the same way that runs through your body, that nervous impulses run through the body, right, through your nerves, there's also this intangible world of energy that runs through the body, that depending on the school of thought, Eastern medicine, so Chinese medicine calls it qi, Ayurvedic medicine, Indian medicine calls it prana. It's life force energy. And
Can I ask you just a
of
quick
course,
question?
of course.
Before you get too far away from it, your story here.
Mm-hmm.
So where did you grow up?
I grew up in New Jersey.
No way, me too. Um,
Really?
so where in New Jersey?
Fair Lawn. It's in Bergen County.
Okay, I was way south of that.
Okay.
But so when you were going to school,
Mm-hmm.
where was that taking place when you were having all these operations and everything?
In New York City. So first operation I was an undergrad here at Columbia University. The later surgeries, well, by that point in time, I was already into medicine.
Okay.
Um, and it was probably my third major surgery where I realized that my body was really pushing back. My body was asking for something, and that I needed to pay attention. And that was pretty much when I stepped away from medicine.
So you're in New York City now, right?
Correct. Hmm.
Okay. So when you were going to Columbia, were you there for medicine at the
No,
time?
no, I was there for my undergrad in. I chose to do it in engineering. So
Okay.
yeah,
Oh, good. You're a left brainer. That's awesome.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
So So you started having these struggles or these challenges while you were an undergrad for engineering.
Mhm.
When did you make the decision to become a medical doctor?
That actually, believe it or not, I made the decision to become a medical doctor when I was about 5 years old. I just was very a math person, very much a science person, very much just a technical brain. My dad was an engineer, my brother was an engineer, I think kind of sort of ran in the family. So,
Hmm.
though I knew I wanted to go into medicine, I was like, I want to do engineering as an undergrad, just to do it differently, not to do the traditional biology major route. So I was like, eh.
So what was your religious upbringing like?
So I was raised Hindu, and so we had more, I would say, more of a religious background than a spiritual background per se. So, meaning, my parents would observe um, religious festivals and rituals and make the traditional foods and things like that. I don't know that I was necessarily exposed to spirituality until much later on my healing journey, in a way that, at least in a way that made sense to me.
So when you decided that you were interested in other practices other than Western medicine, it wasn't that much of a pivot for you, was it? Or was it to look at Eastern medicine?
It actually was because, again, even acupuncture to me at that point in time felt a little out there. It was like, is this real? Is there anything to it? And I kind of got to a point where I was like, you know what? I really don't have anything to lose. So why not see?
And
And
you were driven to that exploration by the operating table experience.
partly that, I also eventually, also at that point, yeah, right about the same time, I was on doses of medications that I knew were not just not healthy, but borderline toxic. So
Hmm.
I was on about 8 times the recommended dose of one particular medication, and still my symptoms were out of control. My blood work was not good, and I just felt awful. And I'm here in my late 20s maybe. There's so much of life that I want to live. I'm not able to work at this point. I'm not able to feel comfortable in my body. I'm not able to eat things without worrying. I'm not able to get through the day with any sort of peace of mind. And I was like, this is not quality of life,
Hmm.
right? So,
Were you were you a doctor then? Or were you
yeah,
still medical school? Okay.
yeah,
What was your specialty?
pediatrics.
Awesome. So so I interrupted your journey there. I apologize,
That's okay.
but I just wanted to better understand the framework, and it's perfect, honestly, for me and the type of folks that listen to me. I think so. Please go ahead. So
Um,
you were at the acupuncture stage, I think.
yeah, yeah. So I go to see this acupuncturist, and at the time I'm having basically rectal inflammation. So it's inflammation, inside in a very glamorous area. And would annoy me to sit down was painful, to walk was painful, right? And it was creating all of these impacts. And I remember her placing, the needles on certain points, and it felt like a balloon just started to deflate. And I'm like, how the heck is this happening? My
Hmm.
doctors have given me all of this medication and all of these, therapies, and nothing helps. And you stick one little needle in one little point, and all of a sudden it starts to deflate on the spot. She's like, yeah, the energy just opened. I was like, what? And she started to educate me again. Very curious person. So she would feel my pulse and she would say, are you feeling frustration today? I'm like, how the heck do you know that on the pulse? Like, I only know that it's 74 beats per minute. Like, where are you feeling anger in my pulse? And she would explain things, and she started to educate me on the link between food, emotions, energy that is flowing in the body, blocked energy, what that looks like, how my symptoms were correlating with all of this. And I started to understand health in a whole different way, in a much
Was
more
she
integrated way.
a normal or typical acupuncturist, or did she have another specialty? I mean, I've known acupuncturists that weren't that good. Was that what she did?
Yeah, that was her full time job. Yeah, it was acupuncture.
Okay.
And she's just, she's also a bit of a nerd when it comes to education and things like that. So we vibed really well off of each other.
Okay. So continue with your journey. So that worked for you, obviously. Then what?
And then I wound up being referred, believe it or not, to a different acupuncturist, this one in New York City. And I was like, I've already got an acupuncturist. What the heck? And this was through a friend of a friend. And she was like, no, this woman's different. It's like, again, okay. I didn't understand why. I didn't take her number. I didn't take her information on the spot. I just kind of let it be. And the next morning, my intuition, something inside of me said, now I got to talk to this woman. So I reached back out to this friend and I asked for the contact information. I made an appointment. I went to see this acupuncturist. What I did not know is that she was already on the spiritual path and was about to basically start me on the spiritual path as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I go into her office and, we start talking about, my mind is so left-brained, right? Still, basically, that I'm focused on physical symptoms. I'm telling her what I've been doing with my other acupuncturist, the diet changes I've been making, da-da-da-da-da. She stops me and says, okay, what's going on inside your heart? What's going on inside your head? And she just forces me to look inside, and I'm like, what are you talking about? I didn't have the languaging. I didn't have the background. I didn't have any of the core elements that I needed, right? So she was basically assessing where I was, realized that I was at the very, very beginning, and took me by the hand and step by step started to introduce me to things like meditation, like understanding the patterns that were playing out, the mental loops that were playing out, and then eventually started to help me to feel where energy was stuck in my own body. And I started to become less and less resistant to these things that seemed out there, because all of a sudden, these out there things were the things that are actually helping me. And I was starting to feel better, and I was starting to have more energy, and I couldn't deny it, right? And at some point, I started to trust it and to realize that there was more here. Fast forward, through several years, eventually I was able to get off of medications altogether. I feel the best I've ever felt in my entire life. And I don't even think about the quote unquote disease process that I say that I had, because it's not a part of my life anymore. And getting into these more intangible areas, getting into the emotions that were stuck in different areas in my energy field, learning to work with my energy field, really opening up to possibilities, started to help me to grow and evolve in ways that my left brain cannot understand. But the deeper part of me, my soul, my intuition, my higher self, all of that knows to be true.
Do you do? I'm going to ask you in just a second about what you do in terms of helping people and how you went to that, from being a receiver to a giver of what you're doing.
Yeah.
And of course, now that I brought that up, I forgot what I was going to ask you. I'll, co- I'll, I'll come back to that. I'm sorry. So why don't we
It's
cover
okay.
that? How did you go from being a receiver to a giver?
So the reason I went into medicine in the first place was to help people, right? And at some point, I started to realize for me that I wasn't really making much of an impact on a person's life. I had 15, 20 minutes to talk to them, to diagnose them, to give them a prescription, to send them out the door, and then to, later on write notes, all of this sort of stuff. And for me, what I valued is the connection with a person, is understanding who they are, is understanding what's really going on, and now how can I actually help you to help yourself. So that's number one, right? So that was always there. Then, as I went through my own healing journey, I started to understand, for me, what was making the most impact, and that was the world of holistic health and everything that went along with it, right? And even these more intangible areas. So I started to realize that I could help people to create more of an impact using the tools in the Eastern medicine toolbox, in the holistic health world, versus the Western medicine health world. And so that's what I wanted to do, because I've seen the power, I've seen the impact, I've seen the effectiveness, and I knew that it could translate beyond me. And, having been in my doctor's office being told, You're going to have to deal with this for the rest of your life. You know, you're going to have to accept this quote unquote new normal. Your quality of life is going to change. And when I started to realize that, I got to a point where I felt the best I've ever felt in my life. I was like, wait a minute, there's something here. And this can translate to other people. Now, how do I do this?
So I remember now what I was going to ask you.
Mhm.
So did you also alter, improve, extend your spiritual life as this happened? How did it impact you personally?
Absolutely. You know, people ask me about spirituality and my spiritual life now, and I tell them, you know, it's become my anchor. It's my way of being, it's my way of living these days, you know. I start my days off with meditation, and when I first started to meditate, it was a game changer. You know, the insights that would start to come through, the connections that I was able to make within my own body. You know, reading the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza, right, who talks about, you know, quantum healing and things like that, which to my left brain is like, this guy sounds like a freaking quack. Are you kidding me? And then I
I
not
get
only
it.
read the book, but I start putting it into practice during meditation, visualizing my intestines as healing, like down to the cellular level. Again, I'd seen colonoscopies, I'd seen the images, I knew what inflammation looked like, I knew what normal looked like. And I remember being terrified to have this one colonoscopy, and I'm doing this work, and the colonoscopy happens, and I come out in the recovery room. My gastroenterologist is like, I don't know what you've been doing, but your intestines look like a normal person. I'm like, oh gosh, maybe there's something here.
That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah,
So, so, um, so you do a meditation practice
I do
daily.
that.
Have there been other changes that you've done spiritually? Like, do you have a spiritual guide or person that you talk with, or is it, how does that work?
That's a little more open. I mean, I do, for example, I connect with trees, I connect with nature. That's a big one for me. Um, I knew things were really starting to shift when I could, you know, feel my ancestors. You know, my grandmother who had passed, all of a sudden I would feel, there was one day I was upstairs here in my apartment in the bedroom, and all of a sudden I smelled her scent right near the bed. And I just felt her with me. And I was like, wow, okay. Um, you know, things like that that would just happen. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay, I can't deny the interconnectedness that's here.
That is
Um,
awesome. Now, you
yeah.
mentioned something that I saw you write earlier about how you're able to, I'm probably going to use the wrong words, but understand or communicate with organs of people,
Hmm.
which, of course, to my left brain sounds crazy. But how does that work?
Yeah, I totally get you there. I remember when I was able to feel it myself, I thought I was crazy. I I was detoxing my body, and you know I was in a place where I was taking a lot of rest, and so I'm physically tired. Laying on my sofa, and I'm just relaxing, and I'm more or less in a meditative state, and all of a sudden I could feel my liver, and I was like, okay, this is crazy. What the heck? And so I'm like, okay, well maybe it's not crazy. Hold on, let's just breathe and let's just see what happens here, right? And I could, you know, I was getting an image of the filtration that was happening in my liver. And, you know, again, like I've seen physical livers, and that's what it looked like. And it was like, okay, it was starting to open, it was starting to filter, it was starting to decongest. And I could feel into that. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. But also undeniable. So, you know, in my work with clients, for example, you know, when it first started, when this intuitive guidance started to come through, I was trying to my best to deny it, right? This is
Hmm.
crazy. This can't be true. Let me ignore it. And it would just get louder. So I remember being on a group call that I was leading, and you know, one of the women was talking about something that she thought was the problem. You know, I talk about the difference between what you think is the problem or what your brain thinks is the problem versus what's the actual issue that's going on, right? So
Hmm.
it might be something like this woman who was like, I want to speak more, I want to give workshops, I want to share more, but I don't understand something's holding me back. Well, the issue was that she didn't feel safe in her own body. on a deep level. This goes back to childhood, right? To not feeling safe in her own body. So as we started to do deeper work, then, she started to feel safe in her own body. The speaking started to then automatically happen. So me sitting and coaching her on how to speak, how to put together a talk, how to use your voice was not going to make a difference until she felt safe in her body, right? So that was her energy communicating with me and me starting to understand that and communicating that to her in a way that she could actually hear it and receive it. There have been other incidents, where people's ancestors have come through and have, there's a a connection between a physical symptom that's happening now and, a client's grandmother who passed. And she was holding this unprocessed energy, unprocessed emotion in her pelvis. And this was then creating menstrual issues. Again, like, I was like, this sounds crazy. And we start working through it, and all of a sudden her menstrual cycles shift, her PMS shifts, like all of this starts to change, and now her creativity is open. And I was like, I can't deny this. Like,
How was that related to her ancestor? And how did you communicate, or did you communicate with the ancestor?
so what was happening was she was having these menstrual issues, this tension in her pelvis area, and the energy in the pelvis is related to creativity and to creative expression. Feeling that sort of creative passion, fire, power, right, and putting that out into the world. Her grandmother was a very creative soul and was into writing and was into expression and all of this sort of stuff. She was very close to her grandmother, and was not able to process through the emotions of her grandmother's death due to, I forget the exact circumstance, but there was something else going on, so she kind of had to power through and not really process it. So that wound up getting stored in her pelvis. So when I was guiding her into that stuck energy in the pelvis, all of a sudden I felt her grandmother's presence, and I was like, wait, talk to me about your grandmother. It feels like it's your mother's mother. And I'm like, I'm not a medium. What the heck is happening here? And she was, expressing to me what had happened and that she wasn't able to, really get over it. Like, her grandmother's death was shocking and it was hard. And she told me a bit about her grandmother, and we started to understand that there was a link here. And as we started to work on the energy on the energetic level and also process what was happening, the energy started to automatically open up. And she felt that shift happen. We felt that there was, a resolution between her and her grandmother. And she also had the peace of knowing that her grandmother's spirit was still with her and still wanting the best for her. And that just gave her such comfort.
That's cool. Yeah. So, Doctor, I think the answer to this question is yes, but I want to ask you a little bit more about it. So, does the fact that you're a doctor or you've been through medical training help you with understanding? Like you said, you could visualize your liver. I don't have a clue what a liver looks like, right? I've never seen one. Well, not a human one. So, yeah. So being a doctor, I would assume, helps you with that visualization. Are there people that do what you do that are not doctors? How do they do that without the training that you've had?
I think the training does help to some extent, but I don't necessarily know that it's the be-all, end-all per se, because for me, I think a large part of what's been happening and what's, continuing to open up for me has been more right brain, more trusting that intuition that's been coming in stronger and stronger. And so other people do it. I mean, I know of at least one other person that I'm aware of on Instagram, and I'm sure there's many medical intuitives, right, which is probably the catch-all term I would use. And I don't know that they necessarily see it per se, like see the organ per se, but you can still feel into that organ system or into that organ's energy. And it's really cool because sometimes it's just, it's as specific as the body is asking for this particular food, or the liver feels stressed and needs this particular practice or food or tea or something. And it can be that simple just to start to shift things.
Can I ask you, you use the term medical intuitive, which I think is cool. I'll probably steal that from you and use it when I describe what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
But what is it for people who are listening that you do exactly? Why would someone come to you, and what how do you work with somebody?
So I work with people in a couple of different ways. So some people come to me purely for energy healing. They know that, they have a pretty good handle on their health. Either they don't have any chronic diseases at all, or they're just, they're in a pretty good place. And they want to dive more into those energy layers because they have a pretty solid foundation with the physical, mental, emotional. So we go more into the energetics realm, clearing out energetic blocks, that sort of thing. Other people come to me because they are struggling with their gut health, and that can look like being diagnosed with inflammatory bowel disease or having IBS or not having a diagnosis. To me, ultimately, it doesn't really matter. It's just your digestive system is out of balance, right? So when someone comes to me in that space, then we work on all of those layers, the physical, the mental, the emotional, the spiritual, the energetic, to bring them back into balance, right? So a big part of how I work is in meeting you where you're at. So whether that is, your physical body is feeling the most stress right now, or maybe, like that's somewhat okay, but it's more, the unprocessed emotions, those stuck energies that we need to focus on. And oftentimes it's both, and it's kind of simultaneous. So I'm very intuitively led. And for me, it's mostly what is your body, what is your system asking for in this moment, and let's meet it where it's at. Because when we start to do that, then not just does the energy start to open, but the healing, the repair starts to happen automatically.
So if I wanted to work with you, what does that look like? I mean, do we do Zoom calls, or do we meet regularly by? It's remote, I assume, right?
It is.
You don't need to lay hands on me or anything.
No.
So is that how it works?
Yes. So it is a Zoom call. Some people want to do, a strategy session and just kind of book strategy sessions as they go. So like one-off type sessions, which is an hour session. Other people want to, work together for a longer period of time. And so then, I have packages that we can talk about where it might be, a 3-month or a 5-month period of time that we work together through Zoom still. But, we go deeper, and I might, give you some intuitive guidance in between. We might have some messenger support to just keep that progress happening outside of sessions as well.
Do you help people do something as common as lose weight, or is that related to more serious problems?
No, it's all related. I believe it's all related, and weight and gut health are intimately related. And again, it comes back to how is your body out of balance? Any sort of physical symptom, in my experience, is your body crying out for something, is a sign that your body is out of balance, and it's trying to communicate something, right? So how do we get to what's actually underneath that, which is, sure, there may be a diet component, there may be a lifestyle component, maybe both, but I can guarantee you that there are deeper layers that also need to be addressed in order for that weight to not just be lost, but to stay off, right? Because it's a sign of something else going on. Is that inflammation? Is there emotional stuff underneath? Is there both, right? And that's where, for me as a practitioner, it's, it becomes interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
So help me with, and my listeners, help me understand how to find you. How do we find you if we want to work with you?
So you can come to my website, which is www.drselvi.com. And so that's one way. I have
for people that I know how to spell your name, but can you spell that for us?
Absolutely. drselvi.com.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Also on Facebook, on Instagram. Facebook, it's my full name, Selvi Rengasami. And then on Instagram, it's at dr.selvi.coach.
Dr.selvi.coach. Okay. And for my listeners, I'll put all this in the show notes that are associated with this, both on YouTube and wherever the podcast is.
Yeah.
Do you have any platforms that you, like a book or a podcast or anything that you do? Not yet?
Not yet. No.
Okay.
There's going to be a book in the works. Yeah.
Awesome. I hope so. Good.
Yeah. And
All
if
right.
you like, I can provide my Calendly link too if anyone
Oh
wants
yeah,
to talk
please.
with me.
Well,
Yeah.
why don't you give it to me now, and I'll put that in the show notes too, though.
Hmm. Uh, so that is HTTPS calendly.com/Dr. Selvi, DrSelvi.
All right. And someone who uses that link would be scheduling what?
So they can either schedule a gut health strategy session or an energetic attunement session, which is the energy work session, or if they're interested in working with me in my VIP program, there's a link there as well. So
Okay, awesome.
yeah.
Alrighty. Anything else that you want to share with? We're about where I try to keep it lengthwise. So anything else that you want to share with anybody before we say goodbye?
Just that what not just what your body is capable of, but the type of healing that your entire being is capable of is much more than your mind can possibly comprehend. I believe it's how we're wired as beings. And if you allow yourself to move past resistance and skepticism, chances are you'll surprise yourself. I know I did.
That is awesome. And you just made me think of one other thing. So one other question:
Mhm.
Can you reverse things?
I believe so.
Okay. It's actually today I had someone ask me that about something else, and I said, if you believe it, maybe you can, but you're the person to ask. So,
Mm,
all right.
yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Selby. I really appreciate it. It's been fascinating talking to you. And if you would just hang on, please, as soon as we say goodbye here, and we'll wrap this up offline. But thank you again for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. My pleasure to be here.
Bye bye.